Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is Knight. This channel will be dedicated to medieval online battles, and we will go through a bunch of games as time goes on. The first game we're going to start with is Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD. Now we do have a good number of replays saved from the past couple of weeks. A lot of them I'm actually one of the players featuring in, some of them I'm not. But it's been a few weeks for some of these replays, and I'm going to be just as excited and surprised to see what happens as you guys, having no recollection about what happened a few weeks ago. So Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD, for those of you that haven't heard of this game, it is the totally free mod for Total War Attila. Very good online medieval game. You play single player or online battles. The battle today is a 2 versus 2 set to large armies, and we have some very powerful factions playing today. So without further ado, let's get to the army compositions. Because this is set to large armies, there is a lot of troops on each team, guys. The first army is here, the Kingdom of France, commanded by Constantine, the player. We see 14th century spears here on the screen as his first unit, the heavy Pavy spears. So for those of you, again, new to 1212 AD, the 14th century is the high era. So there are 13th century or early era units. There are 14th century units, which are known as high era units. And then there are 15th century units, which are known as the late era units. And for this battle, 15th century units were banned. So no late era units were allowed on the field by the rules agreed to by the players. But we do have high era or 14th century and early era troops on the field. These are the high era spears. A very strong unit with large spear, good missile defense. So how many of these did he bring? We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in a row here for the Kingdom of France. Here we have early era or 13th century dismounted French knights. So in this battle, since they're on the same field as 14th century units, we can sort of think of them as hedge knights or just knights that couldn't afford the latest and greatest in arms and armor. Certainly they're going to take a little more damage in battle. They will, their weapons will probably do a little bit less damage against 14th century armor, but they are still knights, so their skill level is still very, very high, and they will be definitely tough to take off the field. We see 1, 2, 3 in a row here of the dismounted French knights. Some very cool looking units. Nice color schemes. And he's going to have more of those in his siege towers, the Kingdom of France. So dismounted French knights here, another one, and another one of these siege towers. This is actually a dismounted early era sergeant unit. So one of the weaker infantry is here on the field. Most of them are in the tower, but we can see one on top here. The rest are filled with those early era dismounted foot knights, from what I can tell. And just more of those units here. Again, this is set to large armies, guys, so we're going to try to fly through these army comps. And even more of the early era lightly armored dismounted French knights. Now there were a limit of 6 missiles here per team. He has brought some archers here and crossbows. So the crossbows with very, very damaging, these are 14th century crossbows, very damaging bolts. And the archers with, and I see he actually probably by accident here brought some 15th century archers, but still very lightly armored. The ability to loop their arrows over targets. Now his general here, the Roi de France, we can see the King of France here with that crown on his head and a metal mace. Very cool looking unit, very heavily armored knights in his King's Guard here. 38 men. And then the standard cav unit behind him with 60 men. This is the gendarmes. Very capable of doing a lot of damage with the charge. This heavy cavalry, these are the high era cavalry. Up to 3 cav per team in this battle, with not including the general, of course. It's the second unit of gendarmes, and yet he does have a third unit over here. The gendarme unit. And there are also shock infantry on the field. So besides these early era knights, we have from the 13th century, we have 14th century dismounted French knights, and you can see the difference in the arms and armor. So they also have the skill levels of knights with the latest and greatest in terms of arms and armor that is supposed to be on this battlefield here. And there's their captain. He's got a wooden mace with a spiked head there, but most of them with the double-handed weapons with no shields. And he does have 2 more units, so he's using the maximum 3 shock infantry, and they're also dismounted French knights. And here's the captain with the straight edge sword. Very nice looking colors for the dismounted French knights and the 3rd unit of dismounted French knights. So these are going to be very tough units to get off the field for the defenders, very tough to deal with. He has 1 artillery unit, that is the max per team. 4 trebuchets coming in that artillery unit with their crews. And they are attacking in this siege battle a Crusader settlement. We have 2 Western European factions, attacking. The Kingdom of France being one, and his ally, another Western European faction, the Duchy of Lorraine, and here is the general of the Duchy of Lorraine, the House Guard of Vaudemont. So here is the Knight of Vaudemont. He does have a straight-edged sword, kind of hidden in the reeds here. Very nice looking shield, and his House Guard, a little bit less. I mean, they are 14th century knights, but slightly lighter armored from what I can see. No shoulder armor with no spalders or pauldrons. Some open-faced helms, but still a very tough unit. Some of them do have their visors down. And he does bring some cav as well with extra experience points added, or chevrons. These are the Knights of Lorraine. Very cool looking unit, very heavily armored. And some more Knights of Lorraine, a 2nd unit here. Does he have a 3rd unit of cav? That looks like they're over here. Some more Knights of Lorraine. Very cool looking unit here. Let's look at the rest of his army. He's got some Levy 13th century or early era spearmen. So some of these guys, very poorly armored. We see some of them don't even have helmets. Kind of the meat shield made up the bulk of a lot of these medieval armies. 2nd unit here of the Levy infantry, early spears, and the 3rd unit of the early era spears here. Behind them he has his heavier spearmen, so 14th century or high era Pavie spears. 1, 2, 3 of those units here. Just much bigger shields, better protection against missiles. Alright, moving on to his heavy shock infantry, 14th century. These are the hommes d'armes, and there is their captain with the nice plumes. A couple of them here taking cover in the bushes. And a 3rd unit here of the hommes d'armes. Hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. And he does bring the maximum of 6 missiles with 3 militia crossbows. Looks like a little lightly armored unit here. 3 of those, as well as some bows. So that's very good. His archer levies, 14th century. More medieval looking here. Really just not much armor on them at all. But they are able to arc their arrows over and take out some powerful units if they're left alone and just can fire away. So he's got 6 missiles with 3 archers. In the back, some 14th century foot knights. Very interesting because Lorraine does have dismounted 14th century knights that count as melee. They have the melee icon, the sword icon, versus counting as shock infantry. So they kind of sneak in some extra units in there that are very, very powerful. 14th century Moselle Merchant Marines here. Very cool looking unit. The heart-shaped shield. And another unit of those. And he's got a lot of infantry in his siege towers as well. More Moselle Merchant Marines. And then some 14th century foot knights and marines in the rest of these towers. And here he does have a battering ram with some heavily armored 14th century spears, the Pavie spearmen, to push that through. So these 2 Western European factions, Dutch of Lorraine, was commanded by Storm of War, and the Kingdom of France are attacking this Crusader settlement. This settlement is walled off on all 3 sides with The fourth side being the port, only open to the ocean and not accessible by land here over these cliffs. So very nice looking settlement. Some high stone walls, pit traps at the gates, and some scattered boulders in places here to make it harder for the attackers to come in. The defense commanded here by, we have two factions, the Latin Empire and the Principality of Antioch. Antioch commanded by yours truly, Knight. Here we see the general's bodyguard. This is the knight commanding the Principality of Antioch. Here he's got an open-faced helmet, straight-edged sword with the colors of Antioch on his shield. And let's go over Antioch's army composition. These are the dismounted knights of Antioch. Very cool-looking unit. Love some of the helms here. And this particular unit with some extra experience points, the most experienced unit here for Antioch on the field. Just amazing. Some of these guys with the maces, some of them with single arm or straight edge swords. Very nice looking helmets here. We see some pig-nosed helmets. We see some occasional great helms and some open-faced salets there. Now beside that unit, we have also a very experienced shock infantry unit, the 14th century or high era dismounted Templar Knights. Very powerful unit. There's their captain. With most of them though with the two-handed weapons. See a very big and just terrible looking warhammer here. Imagine getting hit by that thing. As well as some two-handed axes. Very tough unit, the Knights Templar in the high era. A little bit of a less experienced Templar unit here. Again, the experience points will add a little bit of damage and skill, but not much. They don't make a huge difference. So this unit here also extremely powerful. The 2nd Shock Infantry for Antioch. And we have a third one over here. That would be the 3rd Shock Cavalry for Antioch. One unit of trebuchets here. And that is sort of the inner keep here. The inner defenses. They got 2 siege towers that will fire, or rather just arrow towers that will fire arrows here from the inner keep. And a few entrances to the inner keep. This one here blocked off by some Pavie spears, so the 14th century spears. Antioch Pavie spears and some archers on the ramp behind them. So they're blocking this entrance. You got a second entrance here, which looks like the Latin Empire's got some pikes sitting here. And that kind of splits off into 2 ways, and Antioch is guarding both of them. Pavie spears guarding this ramp, and the other ramp here, the 3rd unit of the high era Pavie spears are guarding this ramp here. So that is the inner layout of the inner keep. We have a courtyard to the left here with more of Antioch troops. Some Francomati spears, so these are also 14th century spears, but a little bit weaker than the Pavies. Just a little bit smaller shields, you can see that. And over here we have Templar spears, so these are the early era or 13th century Templar spearmen. Holding this way here with some stakes in front of them, so some anti-cav deployables. More stakes here on this ramp into this courtyard here. 13th century Templar sergeants blocking it. And you do have a capture point here, kind of represents some part of the city that if captured, it's going to give a morale boost to the attacking forces. So that's why these knights are here, the dismounted Templars, to guard that. And along the wall, the rest of the defenses. Right now the archers are on the wall, and soon you're going to have these spears available when the enemy does get a little closer. So here we have 14th century light bow infantry for Antioch. Multiple units on the wall here. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 units, and a 5th unit of the crossbows here. These are heavy crossbow infantry. They do have the heavy shields, or big shields on their backs, and can soak up a little more damage. And they're also pretty good in hand-to-hand too. 1 bastion catapult per defender was allowed as well. Here we have some more defenders for Antioch. The Francomati spears, kind of a medium high era spear unit. Looks like 3 more units of those. And some more Templar spears that are ready to help the archers out on the walls once the attackers get a little closer. Cavalry here for Antioch. only could afford, looks like 2 units of Antioch Knights. So the dismounted version we saw, these are the mounted cavalry version of those guys. Very cool looking units, the Knights of Antioch. Let's go over to, oh, looks like one more unit of Antioch here, kind of left in the courtyard. More dismounted Antioch Knights. So I think that was 3 units of those. Let's go over to the last player, the second defender. This is Letholdus commanding the Latin Empire. And here is the Latin Emperor. Just a very cool looking unit. Nice segmented spalders there, straight edge sword. Beautiful colors here on his shield and his horse. He's got the pink shirt, which is unfortunate, but just an amazing looking unit. And his men here with the clap visor helm, very cool looking. Another guy with the clap visor helm and a nice plume. Some of the pig face helmets here too, and open face helms we see. Just a very extravagant, flamboyant type color scheme here for the Latin Empire. And the rest of his army comp, here we go. He brings some dismounted high era Templars as well. Extremely powerful shock infantry units. And he does have some reserves lined up here in the inner keep. These are the early era dismounted Templar Knights, early era dismounted Hospitaller Knights. It's very much a Crusader army. Some Latin Knights from the early era. Again, we see the lighter armor in the 13th century Knights, but their skill level is high. And then here are some men-at-arms. So these guys are from the 14th century. A little bit more armor than their knights over there, but a little bit less skill, since they are not knights. And some 14th century sergeants. Very cool looking scale mail on some of these guys in lamellar armor. Now the rest of the Latin Empire, we already mentioned these. He's got 2 pike units, which was the max we could bring. Trebuchet here. So it looks like every player with a trebuchet. Antioch trebuchet over here in the inner keep. Letholdus with his trebuchet in a more attacking kind of position here in the mid-city. He brought some handgunners. Very interesting unit to see in a non-late era battle. Most of the handgun units in this game are in the late era or the 15th century. These are 14th century handgunners. It's a really experimental type unit for this century. Their guns are going to be less accurate and they have less range and take forever to reload. But certainly a unit that can do a lot of damage if they get close enough and they're allowed to get some shots off against early era and high era armor. Second unit of handgunners here. Very interesting looking unit. His other missiles though are archers. Kind of standard medieval missile unit. Light bow infantry in the 14th century. So Letholdus using all 6 of his slots for the missiles. And more early era dismounted Templars here, dismounted Hospitallers, Latin Knights, early era, very lightly armored when compared to the high era units on this field. Here's some high era men-at-arms and some high era sergeants. So these guys kind of hiding in the shadow of the walls, ready to defend the outer walls when the attackers draw near. More sergeants here, basically just spearmen from the 13th century or early era. Second unit here that I see, and another shock infantry unit. So that's his 3rd unit of dismounted foot knights, which are the Templar Knights in this case. And the 14th century armor just makes them a very, very powerful unit. Alright guys, I think that is both of the armies. We did miss, I think, his cavalry. He does have 2 units that he brought. These are the Latin Knights. And again, gotta love the colors of the Latin Empire. 14th century Latin Knights as the cavalry for Letholdus. So here we go, without further ado, let's get this battle started. 2 versus 2 siege battle with large armies. Here we have France attacking this wall here, which is held by Letholdus. And it looks like his trebuchet is firing already. Coming down, and oh my goodness, just missing that catapult, but ricocheting down into
Our ally
these
is under attack
archers.
from the enemy.
And it looks, yeah, it looks like he killed one. So there is first blood drawn by Constantine with the Kingdom of France while he was trying to target this trebuchet. So those archers are now repositioning to get out of the way. Siege towers are firing. The graphics in this game, very nice. Now, as in real life, these towers in this game take a long time to push. You got a giant siege tower full of men, and it does take a long time to push it in close to the stone walls of this castle. So we are going to hit fast forward while we get those towers a little closer. All right, guys. These archers here are firing away, but as we see the Marines, the Moselle Marines from Lorraine, they're still 120 at 120. They're pretty safe inside that tower, as safe as you can be in a medieval siege. So the archers, after a volley or two, they're going to just come down the stairs here. They're going to be replaced by some infantry to hold the walls. And that's fast forward again as we get a little closer. Here we go. So the Antioch archers are pulling back into the center of the base. At least most of those units look like they're being pulled back all the way. Bastion catapult here, trying to get a shot away onto this unit, but just falling short, looks like. And here we go. We have some units trying to make first contact on the walls. Moselle Merchant Marines are on the walls here, and the defenders are holding the stairs and the towers here, which are the only way down. And the dismounted Knights of Antioch have gotten involved here. They're going to hold the gate from the sides. And let's take a look at some of the action here. The first battles are breaking out along the wall top. We're going to go into cinematic view, guys, and just enjoy the action. Moselle Merchant Marines here, taking on high era spears. You can really appreciate the graphics from this close. And it looks like Antioch has an archer unit here firing up. So that's always nice to provide some cover fire for the defending men on the walls. But some big battles breaking out all along the wall here. Antioch and the Duchy of Lorraine. Storm of War pushing in that battering ram for Lorraine. France now a little bit behind, but has got some troops on the walls. Looks like the dismounted French knights are here, and they're going to take on the Latin men-at-arms. High era men-at-arms against some French hedge knights, essentially the early era knights. the defenders here with dismounted Templars as well, early era Templar knights, and pushed in. So this unit of dismounted French knights kind of being surrounded from two sides and having fire arrows shot down on them by the arrow tower. Some good action breaking out here. And France putting the pressure on the defending Crusaders. The Latin Empire's Hospitallers are here, taking on dismounted French knights from the early era. So we have more action on the walls, and it looks like also some support here from the ground. And there is one unit that has made it to the ground here. Who's this? French Pavy spearmen are on the ground, and the gunners firing up and already causing the unit to waver here. Dismounted early era French knights, their armor just not holding up to 14th century guns. Experimental as they may be. Archers here providing some cover fire for the Latin Empire. And we do have a cav unit that's going to try to take out these spearmen, and that's a big charge. Well, he didn't get all his forces in there, but maybe enough. There's some more coming in. That unit didn't quite get set, so they're going to waver. They're already down a bunch of men and getting hit by the fire arrows. So the courtyard is clear again with this unit trying to retreat. Big shots coming down from France, but a miss that time. Looks like the Duchy of Lorraine with some great pressure here. Starting to get rid of the Antioch units. They're still holding on, but they're starting to waver on the wall here. And the back of this settlement is also going to be targeted by the Moselle Merchant Marines, and we have some 14th century Franco-Matti spearmen that are going to meet them here. But the rest of this wall not looking good for the defenders. In fact, there is one unit wavering, starting to break, despite the archer cover fire. Now we do have a unit here at the battering ram, being just pelted by those crossbows from the top. A lot of kills coming for these crossbows here. Let's take a look. 22 men killed already, and this unit is down 33 men, so the arrow towers are helping them out, as well as these pit traps. Interesting to watch this. There we go. More arrows coming down. And now that unit's starting to waver. Another half a dozen men gone. 10 men probably died in that volley here.
The enemy have rallied their units!
And only 75 left out of 120 spears here, working the battering ram. Looks like they're going to break
Our
at
men
a
are
moment.
breaking off!
France having a tough time on the walls here with these handgunners and archers firing up. But look at that. Big shots coming down and falling. Kind of a 2-for-1 here for France, taking out some handgunners. He only brought 2 units, and they are only the 14th century gunners, so a little bit weaker and much less range than the 15th century ones. But the archers also peppering France's knights here. Look at that.
Cowards!
Just being taken out. You got battlements on the outside of the wall, but you have nothing on the inside of this wall protecting you. You're on here. France in tough, trying to attack the corner of that settlement, but more French troops here. The early era French knights. Here we are in battle against some possibly less skilled but better armed warriors from the Latin Empire. Cinematic view for this action, guys. also flanking in, giving the French knights a tough time. Looks like the crossbows have broken this unit here. Only 14 levy spearmen left. And the crossbows with 93 kills. So pretty much entirely responsible for taking out this unit. A little bit of help from the arrow tower. The gate though, 77% damage. The wall is being held up here near the gate by dismounted Antioch knights. It's a very tough unit. Taking on the foot knights of Lorraine, holding the gate.
The men have thrown down their weapons and are fleeing.
But more men fleeing for Antioch. And the wall is very quickly falling into the hands of the Duchy of Lorraine here. Storm of War getting some of his missile units too on top of the wall. That's going to be tough for the defenders. They can't reach the inner keep with their shots, but they can certainly clear some of this courtyard if anyone comes close. And quickly the crossbows are being pulled back. We have a pike unit being moved up here to hold this gate, although it's not fully down yet. The Kingdom of France sending up some dismounted French knights to climb this siege tower. And these are the 14th century knights. We've only got 3 units every game of these guys. Per team, we only had 3 shock infantry allowed. So it's 14th century French knights are a tough unit. One of the best units on the field. And he's sending them in. He does have one more unit in reserve. I see the high era French knights. Trebuchet shots coming down. Looks like, oh my goodness, taking out 2 out of the trebuchets here for the Latin Empire. Yeah, he's 2 out of 4 now. All right, and we have this unit of spears here. So now a second unit of spears is taking the battering ram to the gate. And that is not going to hold very long. And unfortunately, all the defenders are on the walls. Nobody's left here except whoever's going to try to dump some oil on them and whoever's in the towers. But that gate is now blown open by the battering ram. So it'll be interesting to see what Storm of War does, because he is a little ahead of his ally in terms of clearing the walls. Is he going to move in? Some pikes being advanced here by the Duchy of Lorraine. And yes, he's moving those spearmen in, so we have a unit of levy spearmen moving in. No infantry to hold the gate. There is some Antioch cavalry nearby. That gate.
The men are broken and running for their lives.
And more men breaking on the walls, we see. Alright guys, let's ride with these knights, see what's going to happen here. Against those early era spearmen, we have some 14th century high era knights doing a charge. And look at this, big charge. A lot of damage done, and this unit already wavering. We have more spearmen trying to charge into the open, through the destroyed gate here, and some oil coming down, doing damage. We have the knights repositioning, and this unit has broken. So a second spear unit now breaking for Lorraine. And more oil just coming down on the guys trying to run out.
Return to the fight.
And not a good position here as these spears are surrounded by cav from both sides. You should probably just wait outside. Does have archer fire covering.
Enemy units have
This is just not a good spot for these spears, and they are going to be hit from both sides. A good charge from the one side, and just a follow-up from the back for whoever's left standing.
This is shameful.
And yeah, this second unit of 120 spears is going to break. These are only his 13th century spearmen, but look at that. And as they flee, just to prevent them from rallying, some more oil coming down. Now a third unit breaking at the gates here. One of the units has rallied, 49 left out of 120. But this unit with 19 is shattered, so they can no longer rally. So the gate being held, but the walls though are in the hands of the Duchy of Lorraine. The outer walls now fallen, and some units are getting down into the courtyard and the inner city here. So Lorraine is inside the settlement. Antioch now pulling some of these knights out, so they're out of the archer range. 49 knights left here. "105 knights over here. And they have 105 kills. Looks like we have a charge out here into these hobby spearmen. Not the smartest charge. They got to get through a very narrow gate, and the spears were ready and have much better armor. But they did pick up 20 kills there while losing a good number of knights as well. The walls over here, France having won them on this side, trying to take this gate. It's still a brutal battle in the wall here. Let's take a look at cinematic mode. As the French, the dismounted French knights from the early era, with their 13th century armor, taking on some Templars with the same type of 13th century armor. I love some of the weapons here from the 13th century, the single-handed axe, and this guy with the cleaver. The longer these towers are held, guys, the more they're going to kill with the archers shooting down fire arrows. Alright, we're going to turn on the HUD.
Our men have rallied!
And you just have this last little vestige of defense from Antioch trying to hold this gate, but the gate will fall by the looks of it. The gate damage already 100%, so it's blown open, but it can still dump oil in on the attackers. Looks like Lorraine has some militia crossbows here, the 14th century crossbows, on the wall, and is moving units in to take on the courtyard here in the mid-city. Antioch with archer fire, and these Moselle merchant marines, they're going to come in. Now this is a very good anti-cav setup, but it's not going to do anything easy infantry, which can sort of just gingerly step between these stakes and attack this early spear unit from Templars. So let's watch the action here, guys. Battle in the courtyard, beginning now in the mid-city. The spears are pretty good at holding the choke point, but the Moselle merchant marines with high arrow armor are just a better, stronger unit. We can see that here. And it looks like these archers here are almost out of ammo, still firing away. Gate now.
The enemy have captured the gate!
The gate has now fallen into the hands of the King of France and the Duchy of Lorraine. The battle here on the walls not going well for the Latin Empire. They did take their toll. They held these towers for as long as they could. But they are going to have to back off now. Natholdus trying to wheel his trebuchet out of there. 117 kills already, but he's down to 2 out of the 4. Now this mid-city area here is also being held quite well by the defenders. Very interesting setup. We have some archers here, 14th century archers, raining some shots down on Pavy spears from the Duchy of Lorraine. And you got a barricade blocking this. Here's the shots coming down. You have a barricade over here holding some gunners, and who are they shooting at? Just taking care of business. Infantry and archers as well. This archer unit looks like they lost 20-something men to gunfire here. A lot of troops also dead at the gates, but now
men have given up and are running for their
Knights of
lives.
Lorraine are going to ride through the gate, which has been captured. And we're going to see them in action soon. These Pavy spears here, just a shield wall. You got some arrows getting stuck here. They can take the fire with their 14th century armor. And it looks like these Knights of Antioch, this depleted unit of basically half a unit, is going to get stuck in combat here, and they're just going to be sent back in to take on Knights of Lorraine. But that's a fully fresh unit. This other unit has done a few charges already. 62 kills, but they are going to break. And some trebuchet fire coming in at these Knights. So taking out a few Knights, good for the defenders. Down to 41 units for the Knights of Lorraine, but they did break this half unit of Antioch Knights. The gunners have pulled back, so the archers are going to man the barricade here for the defenders. The attackers now mounting their own missiles on the walls here. There is a unit of dismounted Templars here still on the walls for the defenders. They're kind of just being ignored here. Looks like they won their battle, but they are so depleted. And nobody really wants to take them on. Instead, they're just getting picked off slowly by archer fire.
Unit has perished.
But the rest of the walls are in the hands of the attackers now. France having won this wall, and the Duchy of Lorraine having won that far wall. And now looks like some interesting action over here. The spears that were here are gone. Instead, we have some Templar Knights and cavalry thrown in here.
Their unit has rallied.
With the Templar Knights as well. Cav pulling out, and they're going to lose some men as they do that. But a lot of action here. Foot Knights pretty much being broken. Archers being thrown in as a meat shield. They're out of ammo, so that's a good use for them. And the Knights of Lorraine again bowling through their own unit and destroying this archer unit. But looks like the defenders throwing in their Templar Knights, so that's a very good play here, using archers as a meat shield that are out of ammo. And now these Knights will lose even more as they try to pull out 43 down to 42 men as they try to pull out here. Down to 40 now. And the Templar Knights haven't really taken much casualties. So very good use of a meat shield here by the defenders. That archer unit trying to rally. Templars being just thrown in here, chasing the cav, and some of them getting just bowled over by Stony Horse. Knights of Lorraine here. The Merchant Marines, edge of this unit has now been drawn into the battle as well. But the Templar Knights, just so many strong infantry here. They're going to take out the rest of this Knight unit. You don't want to leave cav and prolong melee, and they do break. But another cav charge here. Very nice by the Knights of Lorraine. Into this dismounted Templar Knight unit. So very good job by the attackers here trying to take out the heavy shock infantry of the defenders, which is so valuable in the siege. Let's go into cinematic view here. You have missiles flying around. This is just the classic medieval battle here, guys, in the courtyard. Men on foot taking on men on horseback. And we have, looks like, another charge. Antioch with their knights. I think that was Antioch. And it will go knight on knight charge. Here we go. 2 sets of knights charging at each other. Both sides taking big damage. Looks like the Knights of Lorraine came off a little bit worse for the wear in that charge. And we have some Templars here charging in from the back. The Moselle Merchant Marines, though, have come in. Take on these Antioch Knights from the back. But the Templars will do the same to the Knights of Lorraine. And they are going to break. They were surrounded. They have now broken. You have pikes coming in here.
Our men are rallying. They're not done yet.
And that knight unit for Antioch with 131 kills. Very good numbers for your cavalry in a siege. 132 kills now, but they will break soon. The courtyard guys just scattered with bodies, covered with bodies at this choke point here. And the Latin Empire has now sent in some reinforcements, 13th century foot knights, and some 14th century men-at-arms, with archers coming in around the back. Lorraine now just with a scary setup of troops here, about to attack this. The mid-city here held by Antioch on the side. They do have stakes here, but again, that's only good against cavalry. Archers dropping down some cover fire with their spears, trying to take out some of these crossbows here. But it does not look like it's going to be enough. This barricade now down, destroyed. These foot knights taking a breather after destroying the barricade and looking like they took some heavy casualties. We do have these choke points still being held. You got spears here from Antioch with Latin pikes behind them. More spears here. And looks like a big trebuchet volley here. Oh, and he's taken out, Antioch has now taken out 2 of Storm of War's trebuchets. And that trebuchet unit is going to be pulling back. No, they will return fire. Let's see what happens here. And it's always a shame when you go shot for shot, artillery against artillery, because these shots, they don't get a lot of them, and they're much better used against enemy infantry rather than trying to target artillery. But taking out enemy artillery is certainly very valuable. It's just going to result in less kills for that unit. And another shot here. And looks like 444. And the Duchy of Lorraine has lost their artillery with 0 kills for that unit. the Antioch trebuchet, 11 kills and 4 destroyed trebuchets of the enemy. So very good job, but it's now low on ammo. Moselle Merchant Marines here taking on the 14th century man-at-arms. Very nice battle here in the streets with 2 high era units, neither of them being a knight. A little bit less skill, but tons of armor. Good old-fashioned medieval brawl here. Cover fire here by these archers from the Latin Empire. They're targeting those foot knights that are coming in. It looks like only one of them's gone down. Lorraine. Lorraine with a ton of just elite heavy units coming in here. And you have Latin foot knights here ready to take that charge on. And over here as well, looks like Lorraine has opted to hold his infantry back. They no longer have artillery support and just go shot for shot here with crossbows. Crossbows firing into a spear wall. So that's going to be tough to take out. But these are only the early era or 13th century armored Templar Sergeant spears. Meaning that they, despite being in the perfect formation here with the spear wall, they're going to take some losses to direct crossbow fire. The archers are trying to cover them, and they're taking out some of them. Militia crossbows here. So just a grind fest here as well, in a missile battle. Try to take this ramp here, heading into this inner courtyard with this capture point here. Latin Empire now, throwing archers into melee. Looks like these guys are completely out of ammo, so they've done their work. 43 kills with their missiles or so, and now they're in hand-to-hand. So let's see some of them here. No shield, just a single-handed weapon, daggers and swords. But you got to get the best bang for your buck here. When a unit is out of arrows, throw them into melee. And Moselle Merchant Marines here with their heart-shaped shields, they're going to just cut through archers like a hot knife with butter. But they're also up against these men's arms, or 14th century men-at-arms mixed in with the archers, so that's going to be this guy here, for example, big shield. They're going to give Lorraine some trouble. See in the back here, we now have a pike unit, probably trying to capture this tower. But they're not going to be able to flank here into the courtyard because there's a unit of spears here. And the courtyard here erupting into several walls on this side. France now sending in his dismounted French knights. And oh my goodness! Look at that! That was the trebuchet of Letholdus with just an astounding number of kills here. That is not a good way to use your 14th century dismounted French knights or your pikes. They're being held in place by a steady but starting to waver, almost starting to waver sergeant unit. And they're being just destroyed by the artillery here. 243 kills for this trebuchet. And another volley, he's only got 2 left. But look at that. Look at all those bodies burning. Just destroying this attacking force. And his spears wavering, but they're doing their job, just holding the enemy in place, while arrows and artillery does the rest. I wonder how many kills did that one shot. 305 kills. That was about 60 men.
Our men
Really
flee
half
the
a
field
volley of
battle.
artillery
This
taken
is a
out.
shameful display.
The spears on this side starting to break. Moselle Merchant Marines have done their job. You do have some archers on this ramp now, still raining shots into them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. These guys are just taking a breather here at the bottom of this hill, having just won their battle. And now absorbing some arrow fire, but they are very heavily armored troops. Looks like these archers have driven away
The enemy has obliterated an entire unit.
the units that were, oh, look at all these dead pikemen trying to take this tower. Just riddled by the archers and I guess by the arrow towers too. So it looks like Lorraine trying to get crossbows up. They can definitely make their way over to this tower and take it from the top while exchanging arrow fire here. So very interesting development. Meanwhile, we have a trebuchet moving up here. This is Antioch's trebuchet, the one that just took out a little while ago the trebuchet of Lorraine, but now down with only 11 kills with maybe 30% ammo left. And we have the general, the knight commanding the army of Antioch, sallying out of this inner keep area and trying to get a charge in on some Marines. So those Marines see that and they are backing up. And it looks like they're just buying time for the second, not the most experienced Templar unit, but the second most experienced Templar unit to come and hold this hill while the archers give cover fire. So kind of a bluff here with this general in wedge formation, looking like he's going to charge at those Marines. They're here ready to brace, running behind the stakes. And now the general being pulled back. So the archers here and those dismounted Templars, the 14th century shock, the high era shock infantry knight unit moving in to hold the hill. Only one shock unit left for Antioch after this unit, as well as a very, very powerful melee unit. Also 14th century knights, the Knights of Antioch, being held in reserve. But the Templars are charging in, and they get a good charge here, breaking through some crossbows and into these spears. That depleted crossbow unit now kind of being pushed through, also wavering and pulling out. And the Templars with a good charge, breaking the crossbows completely and hammering these spears. So let's take a look at this chaotic battle here. 2 units taking on this Templar unit,
is under attack.
while the archers provide some cover fire from both sides. Just moving down the line of battle. Sorry, guys. Very interesting here. Let's see how long the Templars can hold against multiple units. Just enjoying this medieval action, guys. Looks like we have pikes and spears taking on the Templars. Their big copy shields. Oh my goodness! That guy right in the center of the screen just went down for this axeman. Knight with a double-handed axe. The pikes now, the spears looks like they've taken the damage. The pikes are holding. Trebuchet fire though, look at that, just clearing out defenders here and automatically causing the Merchant Marines to waver. And you've gone from 11 kills to 66 in one shot. That's a tremendous shot here. Look at it from the top, just the smoke rising and all these dead bodies in the back of this line. Very risky though by the defenders to shoot over their own elite knight unit. And another shot. And some more big hits, guys, by the artillery. Look at this. Just pikemen burning. Bodies being scattered around here. And the spears have broken now. So a crossbow unit, a spear unit, and a pike unit have broken. And I believe maybe a depleted unit of Moselle Merchant Marines. This area is still being held by the Templars. They do not want to give up the courtyard here. The pikes are just running. They're broken. They're going to run right through them. Probably lose more units, yep, as they try to do that. Lorraine now circling with his knights. Unit with 29 kills there. And just more damage by the artillery of Antioch here. Taking out lots of archers here. It looks like 33 archers with one volley. The knight unit coming in. Wasn't sure about charging the Templars or misclick here or trying to get through his own troops. So the Templars are actually moving in on the knight unit. Not good to keep your count in full-on melee, so he's going to want to get them out of there. Duchy of Lorraine, though, look at that. There's the commander, the captain of this knight unit. And it is stuck in full-on melee here. Lost about 6 men just now. He's going to pull out, he's going to lose more men pulling out. The Templars are holding them in melee, it looks like. I don't know why Lorraine didn't, I guess he just tried once to pull them out and they're wavering. And a depleted archer unit can be thrown in as well, and that might do it. No, Lorraine is going to pull out. He's going to pull away. His knights are rallying now and moving back in, plowing through some archers. Big charge with the rest of this knight unit as they get their morale back. The Templars are going to be counter-charging. So some nice micro here on both sides. And they do catch some of this knight unit here, but they will pull back. The Knights lost another 3 here, the Mountain Knights. Dismounted Templar Knights. They want to pull back before those Knights can come back and get a suicide charge. They're going to pull back behind the stakes. So Lorraine now using his own shock infantry, lots of experience points put on these guys, meaning he put a lot of money into them. A lot of his gold. And they're going to be charging in here. And they're going to be ordered to destroy the stakes, looks like. But the Templars are going to counter-charge him off the hill. This depleted Templar unit with 255 kills is going to come in and take on the Homes Darn. Cinematic view here, guys. Look at something you guys with that longsword. Oh my goodness! A crushing, explosive shot. Who was that? That by the Trebuchet from Antioch, with just a ton of kills here on this unit. And from 120, he's down to 83 men in this unit. They will get through these tired Templars who are now wavering. Already taken out 4 units. 261 kills for the Templars. But they do break. Courtyard being overrun now, but looks like the Latin Knights have pulled off a flanking maneuver. And just a very nice charge here. Some very cool colors. They do break this unit of 14th century high era Bobby spears. The rest of the Knights of Lorraine are being thrown in against those Latin Knights. But it's not going to be enough. The Latin Knights took a few casualties here, but they're gonna win that back. More trebuchet fire here. Antioch. And we just see the bodies here. Look at this, guys. Levy archers. Oh my goodness. Well, that was a miss here. With this unit down to 67 out of 98. And the trebuchet looks like it's down its last shot, but 239 kills. After taking out another trebuchet and wasting a bunch of ammo, that is a pretty good number. More trebuchet fire here. Who are we targeting?
Enemy units have rallied and returned to the battle.
Bigness. Looks like they're shooting one at a time. And the last 2 shots have now been fired. One more big hit against the Foot Knights. 27 men just fried in 1 shot. 251 kills for this trebuchet. And Lorraine's shock infantry has broken the first of his 3 units. But unlike France, he still has some more in reserve here with 2 more units in reserve. Speaking of France, they're putting the pressure onto this entrance here, taking out the Latin pikes, taking out Antioch spears who are now shaken, just showering arrows down on these handgunners. I told you the range is not very good. They have clear line of sight on these units, but they can't reach them. And the 14th century archers are going to reign supreme here, guys. More shots coming down.
The men have thrown down their weapons and are fleeing.
Men are fleeing. And these pikemen with no shields, poor guys, they're just going to get... Looks like they are targeting the poppy spears, but they're also going to take damage here. France doing a good job now after the, well, I would say fiasco, where he lost a ton of pikes and a ton of shock infantry, and basically his dismounted French knights, the trebuchet fire, now doing a great job with his missiles. Gendarmes trying to circle, but they're not going to charge into this, guys. But he is smartly keeping those guys back. The courtyard is fallen here. The last unit of sergeants is now being just overrun, and they are breaking.
The whole unit has been destroyed.
They're being bowled over by these armed arms. So those guys are going to move in here and try to take this arrow tower here in Ram, which is the entrance into the inner keep for the defenders. But we have a unit of fresh, experienced 14th century or high era Pavy spears for Antioch holding this choke point. Let's watch a cinematic view as the shock infantry gets their charge in on the spears. Big charge for the attackers. Gotta love the longsword action. Longswords and 2-handed axes here with warhammers. Just hamming out damage to the spears here, guys. Those Pavy shield, really good protection. They're getting pushed back by Lorraine's shock infantry. Both high area units here, but that shock infantry is a little more expensive and tougher. Looks like the catapult of left. Oh, this is the trebuchet, excuse me, is the last artillery left on the field. I do wonder if France's artillery has any ammunition left. No, they do not. They have 77 kills, but they're out of ammunition. So now the only thing you can do is throw your trebuchet crew in. Antioch's trebuchet crew is ready to do just that with 253. The Pavy spears are not doing well against these armed arms. Only 2 men lost. They're a little tired. They've cleaned out almost 50 spearmen after charging into them. Capture point of this courtyard now falling to the attackers. We have the Kingdom of France here. Well, no, these are Lorraine troops, but they're planting France's flag.
Nothing remains of this unit now.
France's flag here in the courtyard. And going to damage the morale of the defenders. The Pavy spears are breaking, they are shaking, they're about to break. It looks like only 9 of the shock infantry at 120, now 10 are dead for Lorraine. And he still has 1 more unit in the back. And wavering spearmen are going to give way, but it looks like there are some more spears here thrown in to hold the ramp and block these archers in this arrow tower. They're ready in spear wall formation. The Latin Empire holding the choke point now. Antioch spears have been annihilated. Archers are firing down and now doing a charge. Must be a misclick here. With archers in loose formation, charging into melee. But it looks like these two shock units want some cover. They don't want to be open to this artillery. Or at least one of them is being sent over to the side. Artillery fire here by Letholdus, who's already done so much damage with his trebuchet. Despite it being at half strength, 386 kills. Doing what you're supposed to do with artillery. Assuming you're not targeting other artillery and just racking up kills against infantry. Now switching his shot type, lighting those babies on fire and firing down to these archers with explosive shot, cooking some archers of Lorraine who were not in loose formation. Now Stormable reacts by putting them there, but they're already shaken and down a half a unit. They're going to return some fire, but it's going to be less than it could have been. France clearing this area out nicely, but we still have the choke points being held. Just pushed back to hold this entrance into the inner keep from this side and from this side. You could say, why aren't they just pulling back and holding here? Well, this is the capture point for this arrow tower, so you want to keep that alive. Block it off from both sides, here and here, and then you have this protected as well as the entrance into the inner keep. The attackers now committing a second unit of shock infantry to try to break through these Knights of Antioch. They've only killed 36 men, but they've been up against the best of the best that Lorraine has to offer. And another unit has charged in. 38 kills for the dismounted Antiochian Knights. But against two shock infantry units, they're starting to waver. And the Templars will have to get involved now. Yep, and there they go. They are running. Tactical retreat, we'll call it. After bravely fighting two units. Here, the Templars, again, these guys have lighter armor. They're up against two depleted shock units as the attackers make their last push. And they have captured this tower or knocked it down. Their missiles are supporting. And we have a general battle, guys. General on the side. They have agreed to dismount. And here we go, Antioch and the Kingdom of France. Brutal street fighting. The Roi de France, here he is in the back. There he is, the Roi de France, fighting the general unit for the Antioch Knights. And this is a great street battle here. France giving it everything. The king saying, my men have died for me. Now it's my turn to give everything I have for this siege. We got to beat these Crusaders. 3 minutes left in this siege battle, guys. What a battle. What a brutal siege. And what a way to finish it other than hand-to-hand between two of the commanders. The King's Guard of France doing well, but the Knights of Antioch are proving to be very tough out here. Each unit with 2 kills so far. Let's look at this in cinematic view, guys. We have the Roi in the back here taking a breather as his King's Guard. Battle with the Knights of Antioch, the best that the Knights have to offer. And it looks like the King's Guard, due to army losses and 8 men died, are doing a tactical retreat of their own. France, their whole army is starting to break. I do believe these guys can rally. And another general battle going on the side here, guys. Look at this madness. The House Guard of Vaudemont has called out the Holy Roman Empire, or not the Holy, excuse me, the Latin Emperor's bodyguard. And that is going on right now. And here is the Latin Emperor with his pink cape and his flamboyant guards, and they're taking on these guys. The House of Lorraine, the House of Vaudemont of Lorraine, doing their best. The King of France has rallied, and he is just going to try for one more charge. But it looks like the balance of power here, heavily in the defenders' favor now. 1,200 against 500. Everyone's starting to break on the sides here. France with an epic charge, just giving it their all. 40 seconds left, guys. And they break again. And they run again after losing 2 of their men. Lorraine is broken down to 9 men. Latin Emperor is still alive. The commanding knights of Antioch are still alive. Their general. 14 seconds left, guys. And that is it. And the army breaks with 4 seconds left and a victory for the defenders, guys. Thank you very much for joining us for this battle. Let's take a look at the statistics here for both sides. Pyrrhic victory, yeah, at what cost? That was very close, very competitive, and down to the wire. And those are the type of games we want to show you on this channel. So let's look at the statistics here, starting with the defenders. Here's my army. 16 kills for the General's Bodyguard. The Templars were actually not even tested, the most experienced unit that was in the reserves. They were held back. The other 2 units, 276 kills, a huge number for your shock infantry, and 119. Pretty good numbers for here. The Templar spears were annihilated, but they held the walls. Same with the Franco-Mattis. The Pavis, I guess you could say, did a little better. This unit is still completely alive and probably untested. This one with 32 kills, this one with 3. The dismounted Antioch Knights, probably worse numbers than I expected here. The Gold Chevron unit with 47 kills, although they were up against 2 Gold Chevron shock infantry units that were high era, so they had some very elite opponents. This one with 108, this one with 97, so pretty good numbers. Could have been better. The Archers, 82 units, 82 kills there. Crossbows with 119 and still a fully healthy unit. Now the Knights, 160, very good numbers here, and 52 disappointing numbers on this one. 297 kills for the Trebuchet, which also took out Storm's 3 out of the 4 Trebuchets in Storm's army, but lost 2 in the process. So pretty good numbers there. Now we have the army of Letholdus, 786 kills for his Trebuchet. That is just massive. Congrats. General's Bodyguard with 27 kills. 195 kills for 1 unit of his shock infantry, 0 for the other, but it's still fully healthy. The Pikes pretty much annihilated. Got annihilated, only 2 kills, 17 kills here. This unit did survive. Most of his infantry took their toll, essentially 99 kills, 85 kills. These are units of 120 men. 148 kills for the Latin Foot Knights here, doing well. The Templars maybe not as well. 23 kills, 122 kills for their early Templars. The Gunner unit, 122 kills here, and 187 kills here, and this unit did survive. So that is good numbers. His cavalry, 126 and 141. So 160 still being the highest on the cav over here. Now let's go to the Kingdom of France, commanded by Constantine. His general with 3 kills, which were all, I guess, men of the general's bodyguard of Antioch. His foot knights, you do have one dismounted French knight high era unit which did very well, 176 kills. They earned an experience point in the process. The other two, not bad, 67 and 86. But as we saw, the trebuchet really chewed through a lot of these men as they tried to press forward against artillery fire. The spearmen just not doing well. 5 kills, 2 kills, 0, 0, 2, and 0. The pikes, the same thing, 3 and 6 kills. Just really dealt with by artillery and long-range fire. The dismounted French knights, kind of mixed results. You got 7 here, but then you have 78 over here. You have 52 over here, so not bad. 16, again, down to 7, up to 44, so kind of all over the place. I think this is a early sergeant unit with 53 kills. That's not bad for an early unit in a high era battle. Some of his archers did really well. 209 kills and an experience point for this unit of Frank archers. Some of them not quite as well. The crossbows didn't do too well in this siege battle. One gendarme unit with 52 kills, but the others basically were countered and didn't do well at all. 0 kills for both these units. His trebuchet with 88 kills. Let's go to Storm of War with Lorraine. Looking at it from the top, so his general 15 kills, again in a general on general duel, just calling out the Crusaders, and the Crusaders bit. So it was a good strategy, because if you did kill that one general, the morale bonus could have turned the tide, but in the end it wasn't enough. 15 kills for the House Guard of Vaudemont. Dismounted, very nice, and looks like some of them got away, so I'm not sure if the general actually made it out alive. His shock infantry doing extremely well. 205 kills, 232 kills, 195 kills. That's over 200 kills on average. He did put a lot of money into these units with their 9 experience points just completely maxed out with 3 gold chevrons. The early levy spears, really nothing to say there. He did have some high era pavis, some of which did well. The Shiltron militia, 43 kills, 23 kills here. And the Moselle Merchant Marines, very good sword unit, 88 kills, 123 kills, 132. I think he got his bang for his buck here with those guys. The Foot Knights, high era, again, an expensive unit with some extra experience points plugged in here. 108 kills, 109 kills, 117, 188, very good, 149. Some very good numbers here. Storm definitely put up a heck of a fight and fought in a very aggressive battle. Did well, but it just wasn't enough this time. On his archers, 87 kills here, otherwise down to 32. Crossbows with good numbers, 73 kills, 41 kills. And then his mounted knights, 95 kills, 116 and 154. I think this is the highest unit on the attackers at least. And his trebuchet only 25 kills, but remember it also took out 2 of my trebuchets, which lowered the numbers for us both really. So it did, it did what it could, given that it was attacking and it was at a disadvantage. So there you have it, guys. Great battle. Thank you to all 4 players who participated, and big thanks to everyone watching. And we will be back with more of this 12-12 AD action as soon as we boot up another replay here.